as I said, I didn't care about money, I sure thought about it because I didn't have a lot. So I had to claw and hold on to, every penny. And it was always on my mind because I didn't have an abundant flow of it. So I liked to fool myself that that didn't matter. Like you said, like that part of it doesn't belong in the arts. It doesn't, it
Doesn't
doesn't.
belong.
Yes.
Exactly.
But
However, we need it.
I was going to say, we live on a planet where we require money to literally survive.
Welcome to Point to Rise, your podcast that gives you permission to dream big, take messy action, and turn your talent into profit while turning your back on perfection. My name is Suzanne Purcell, high performance and mindset coach, former international ballerina, profitable entrepreneur, and founder of Point to Rise, a movement designed to empower dancers. It is my mission to use my own story as an inspiration for today's generation of dancers. And now sit back, stretch, warm up, or sip your coffee and love learning how much it matters to point at yourself first to rise to all that you are capable of. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Point to Rise Art and Money. Christy, my love, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm so good. Much better now. Seeing you, starting my week with you. It's my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. How was your week? Let's start with that.
My week was really, really fantastic. I broke through. We talk about personal development. That's part of my jam, and I'm deep in my journey right now. So I had a number of breakthroughs that my energy's kind of been a little scattered for the past few weeks, and I just described it on another Zoom before this. Like all the scum on the pond has just kind of been sitting on the top layer of the water for a few weeks, and I've been trying to dig it out. And I just had a massive shift where everything kind of started to align, and I was ready to dump some stuff I had been hanging on to. And I feel it's a bit dramatic, but I feel like this shift was so great that I actually feel like I stepped into another version of myself, which is really, really cool. And one of those things, after these number of years of doing this, like I know what that feeling feels like, and I've locked into like the next level, which feels really good. So,
oh, I love it. Look
yeah.
at you. Question, did you start your YouTube channel like you said last week?
Yeah, I mapped out what I wanted to do for the first episode. Same thing. It was like the end of Friday into Saturday that I had that shift. So this last week I still didn't feel like I was in the right energy state to really just kick it off. So I planned, and instead of my perfectionist getting ready to get ready, it was intentional to wait. So now I actually feel awesome. I definitely starting that this week.
Good for you.
But I'm happy I'm at a place where I'm okay to take more time to devote for inner work or to work through things. Understanding that on the other side of it, whatever product I'm looking to will just be a better quality. So I'm also happy I'm at that stage of being at peace with that. So
that is so good. The learning that when there's too much resistance, you just don't because there's too much stuff that still needs to be uncovered, or we need to figure out why we're feeling that kind of resistance. It's gonna come up sooner or later, no matter how much you're able to muscle through that. It's just gonna come up, and it's going to be a roadblock that will actually rise higher than what you're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
Nice.
What about you? What's your week look like?
Yeah. So I'm scum off too.
Yeah.
So I said that I would start hiring interns. Yeah. For Rise Media. And man, do I find myself in resistance. Like so much resistance on taking on responsibility, breaking through my upper limit, letting go of old stories of I don't want to be a leader again.
Mhm.
What if I shine too bright? What if everybody looks at me and judges me? All of that is so loud. I mean, so loud in every possible way that actually yesterday I had to leave the house. I was like,
Mhm.
boys, I am out. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna go and I'm
Yeah.
gonna be with me.
Yeah.
And just that it feels so good, but
Yeah.
it's so hard to do.
Yeah.
So that is what I'm breaking through right now, my own abilities to see them really and to say, hey, you may not know yet,
Yeah.
but there's nothing that you can't learn.
Mm. Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
So what would happen if you shined brighter? What would be the result of that?
Yeah, gosh. I don't know what the
Mm.
results could be. And I think I'm afraid of really saying it out loud, is creating that change for the industry, that they do have um, a better path than we had,
Mhm.
or perhaps to move them into the 21st century
Mhm.
where you can live your dream and it doesn't need to hurt and have to be hard.
Mhm.
That there's so many more possibilities out there that we haven't even allowed ourselves to see. Who's that? Matthew McConaughey in his book Green Lights, he talks about the roof over our head. You know, it's that when we reach that roof, like why are we putting it there? Why we're
Yeah.
not allowing ourselves to be the best that we can be? Because we're afraid of the responsibility that comes with that, because we're afraid of failing, because we're afraid of having fingers pointed at us. Um, actually, it actually happened to me that people are pointing fingers at me. And not from now, but from like past failures, and having that again in my life, I was like, oh, for a recovering perfectionist, that's terrible. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
So thank you for asking that question. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely something that I also like to. I'm admitting very clearly here, I like to revert back to that victim mentality in myself. But this is why. Um, because it's easier over there, because I have an excuse versus why don't I just let that go? Like it's on me to let go.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's really interesting that you said that, because I had a couple notes jotted down too still about that internal thermostat that we were talking about last week, and that victimhood is the barrier from allowing that thermostat to raise. So by us staying in that kills the personal development progress, and that literally blocks off us being able to turn up the temperature. So it's really interesting that you use the word victimhood, because that was, or victim, that was something that was I didn't share last week, that I happy that universal flow that you brought that up, because I wanted to add that is the difference, is our willingness to let go of that, because ultimately all of the things that keep us safe and comfortable come from being hurt. And a lot of us hold on to, I mean, naturally, before we are aware, hold on to those kind of feelings. And that's the block from allowing that to raise. So thanks for adding that, because
So
it's really
good. Let's stay there because
okay.
this is really good. Yeah. Let's just so you know, we always before we jump on and hit record, we talk about what we're going to talk about, and we're totally pivoting now. However, I love it. This is how we work.
Next week we'll do that other
Yeah.
topic.
Well, next totally. We
Already
don't
done.
have to think about it. So when we talk about our upper ceiling, our like thermostat versus temperature. Okay, let's go in there and what that has to do with money.
Mm,
Yeah. So when we look at a thermostat in our house, the temperature in your house can only raise to the point that you have your thermostat set at. Is it 16? 16 if it's, for Fahrenheit, 82, wherever you want to have it. It's a very easy slide to the right or to the left, and that's how you can adjust your temperature. Now, translating that into us humans, I'm going to pass over the baton to you because I can see your eyes like,
yeah.
talk about it.
I love this analogy and I love this topic. So it's based on our level of comfort. So our subconscious goes to great lengths to keep us in whatever we've deemed comfortable. So for us dancers to perform on a stage in front of hundreds or thousands of people feels mostly comfortable. We might get a little stage fright, but we do it and we love it. To another person, that is the most terrifying thing, paralyzing thing in the world. So we all have different levels of like what comfort is. And so our thermostats are individually set based on our subconscious doing everything in its power to remain in that comfort zone. So when it comes to money, whatever we've established as what we deserve, what we think is what we can earn, all of that, that sets that comfort zone for money too. And so that thermostat is just there until we tap into developing ourselves and exploring ourselves in a personal development journey, because ultimately money stories don't change until we start working on ourselves. So we can't ever skirt around. No change and no development can come without us, really taking a hard look at internal stuff, and it's on all topics. So until we start to take that into account for our daily intentions or actions, at least for a few minutes of the day, that thermostat is just going to remain that way to just lock in to that equilibrium. Like it doesn't want to get disturbed. It wants to stay where it is.
Right. Just like a thermometer or a thermostat, like it won't move until you use the lever to move it over.
And it's like, in businesses or commercial areas, they have that cage over the thermometer where you like can't change it. It's like that. We all have that cage until we know how to like remove that and get it off.
Awesome. Oh, I love that one.
Yeah.
Super. So let's look at the arts and what their thermostat is set at, because that is what we're running into, right? This is where we're seeing no growth happening because that thermostat has the cage over and nobody is allowed to tamper with it at all. So, do you want to start? What do you see? Like what stands really out to you? Where's that thermostat at?
Well, I'll speak from personal experience.
Yeah.
My thermostat was set up. My focus, that money thermostat, I didn't even know it had like dust on it, because what I was seeking, what mattered to me was the accolades. And so I sought accolades, not financial stability or security or whatever word you want to use. That really wasn't even in the scope for me, because personally, I had a lot of unworthiness in me, as most of us do. So to justify that and to make myself feel good, I sought external circumstances. And what I sought was recognition and accolades. So to me, it was, where did I train? Who am I, who did I study with? Who am I working with? Who am I working for? All of those things were what I sought after. And that money thermostat, I don't even know if I knew what room it was in, because it just didn't matter to me. Because to me, you could have given me all the money in the world with the old version of myself, and it wouldn't have made me feel any better unless I was at that theater I wanted, or with that choreographer that I wanted to work with, or whether that's what mattered to me. So that's my personal experience. And looking at what I observed from my aspect and my experience in the industry is that's what a lot of people had their sights on. So like I said, you kind of, energetically go with the flow, even though we're choosing an unorthodox career in a lot of senses. But then we have our own normal. Like then it's normal within our home and within our community. And so then we still naturally, as humans, kind of just until we decide to step outside of the crowd, we still kind of just go with what people are doing or what people are focusing on. And so that's definitely what I experienced.
Oh yeah, people go with the flow, and the acceptance of what is normal is mind blowing once you're on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Speaking of thermostat, so I completely agree with everything that you said. Um, and I want to add a little bit more from like a business standpoint too. Um, we're the arts thinks business is wrong. The arts thinks business is bad, and it's actually inhibiting the creative process.
Yes.
And this is why it's not about the money. However, yet we're chasing money every second. We're making decisions based on who can bring us the most money, not who can we serve the brightest and mostest. And we're making decisions based on, well, we're making decisions based on a lack of money.
Yes.
And therefore we're creating this cold temperature, like that lever is not moving to the right to turn it up and make it more warmer and comfortable. No, we're turning it down, and the frost is going to set in if we're not letting go of the tradition that we believe are going to help survive, perhaps, or even thrive. Like the thriving is not even a word that I think I would associate with the arts right now. And I am blanketing here fully
Yes.
because I
Yeah.
see it in every single
Yep.
avenue of the arts.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's where I would go as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And the lack is, oh my gosh, that's such a word of magnitude for me that I've recognized is, I've said it in another podcast before, but as much as I said I didn't care about money, I sure thought about it because I didn't have a lot. So I had to claw and hold on to, every penny. And it was always on my mind because I didn't have an abundant flow of it. So I liked to fool myself that that didn't matter. Like you said, like that part of it doesn't belong in the arts. It doesn't, it
Doesn't
doesn't.
belong.
Yes.
Exactly.
But
However,
yet
we
we
need
live,
it.
I was going to say we live on a planet where we require money to literally survive. So from that kind of energy, what we're living in is survival mode all of the time.
And
All of the time.
and what does bring survival out in us? Like the fight or flight. What does that bring out in us?
Anxiety
Yeah.
and low vibration, so you aren't in a state of peace and joy because there's always some part of your mind that's tugging because that your credit card statement's coming in or rent's due in 6 days or this, and that is a really tough way to live on top of the pressures of this industry. Because take money aside, this industry, there's a lot of pressure for us to be at a certain status and uphold ourselves physically, even mentally, all of the things. And then you put that on top of it, and to me, it got to be unbearable. This
Exactly.
energy.
It can get unbearable. This is why we're seeing a lot of burnout. This is
Yeah.
why we're seeing a lot of dis-ease in the
Yes.
industry, because the pressure, you can take like a tiny little bottle and you hold it out. It doesn't have to be heavy, but it depends on how long you're holding it out there, that at a certain time, you will not be able to hold it anymore because the pressure is too much. That's
Yeah.
all you can take. And sometimes that down, that breakdown, that completely crumble and hitting the rock bottom happens from one day to another. And you're not even aware of it because you have been taking all of that pressure as your new normal.
Yeah.
And because you have been following everybody else because they're doing it. And then you look at your idol, your principal dancers, and they're doing it and they're thriving. So why I'm not thriving?
Yeah.
So let's give some goodness here besides the analysis of what the thermometer and the temperature really, what that means. So you can come up with one and I'll mention one. How can we start? How can we start taking the dust off the thermostat? How can we remove that lock that's on there so we are able to adjust our thermostat to a little bit higher temperatures?
Yeah. In my experience, it has to start with personal development. Because for me in my journey, I didn't know what I didn't know. And there was so much depth to the way I behaved, which is typical, you'll find when you start to do this journey, that, for me to just try to bypass that and figure out how to make more money without understanding why I behaved or thought or had, even viewpoints on making money, why I thought that way. That was unearthed from my own personal development journey. So I would say the first step is to take that step. There are books, there are YouTube channels, there are podcasts that just might be language that you've never heard, or people speak in a way that you've never heard before, but with a little bit of open-mindedness to just start to take that in, even if it's 15 minutes a day. Take in a new way of thinking about certain things, and it will start to little chip away, open your heart up to explore more about yourself that you might not know right now. So I wrote down a few that I love that perhaps might resonate with you. There's so many people out there doing beautiful work and helping people in this way, but some of the ones that I've really resonated with, my first one is Les Brown. I would say he's been one of the biggest lights and light bulbs for me. It's Les Brown, Les Brown. He has a podcast. He's on YouTube. He's on Facebook. He's just a beautiful man, and he has a beautiful story of overcoming obstacles that are so hard. And his laugh is infectious. And so for me, I just loved him so much. So I would check him out. I love Jim Rohn. I love Brene Brown, Simon Sinek. All those people, if nothing else, first, they're on YouTube. If you YouTube search these people, listen to some of their content and see if they resonate with you. But they all have books as well. So that would be where I would start is see who resonates with you. We've talked about Jen Sincero before. I love her. She has 2 fantastic books, and those are the books that I actually started with. Very, very first, baby's first personal development book was You Are a Badass. So, allow yourself to take the time that this isn't going to be something that instantly may click for you, and this isn't a race. This is, for me, been over 3 years of a journey and of just slowly unearthing, mostly in the beginning, to just find peace. So if nothing else, you might find some more peace in your life, and you might learn some stuff about yourself that you're ready to get rid of. And you might find some stuff about yourself that you love even more than you even realized.
What am I supposed to add now, Christy?
I don't know.
Lord.
Sorry.
No, Tommy, this is so good. So I totally agree with all of these books. And when we're talking about how to start, what I still find so challenging for myself is to actually schedule my day. So, and I'm going to come back to how that will actually help you to raise your thermostat, is to consciously decide what you want to do during your day. So as dancers, we were always given a schedule. We have to be at this time here. You have to put your point shoes on around this time. You have to eat on this time. And then you have another rehearsal. And then there's curtain call. And that was always given to us, like with very little room to make our own choices. So if you add that up over a long period of time, you forget how to make your own choices. You depend on others to make them for them. And it is the relearning of making your own choices, understanding that nobody else is in charge of you but yourself. Now that's frightening.
Yeah.
That is so frightening because you no longer have anybody else to blame but yourself. So
Yeah.
baby steps, right?
Yeah.
So I would start with sitting down on a Sunday or a Saturday and look at your week and decide, and that's the key word, you get to choose how you create or what you're going to create for that week. And I understand that your schedule might be full and you have to take in consideration that you need to, find time for regaining your energy, and that there will be time that, your brain power will be chewed up. But then you can go in and even in the morning, let's say set 15 minutes. That's all you need to start with, 15 minutes. And you start reading whatever you can do in 15 minutes. Where's my cube? These little Amazon cubes, like you can see it on a YouTube video. I can link it in the show notes. They're the best. You can just set a timer. You don't see the time, actually. You just see whichever, you turn it up to the top, and you have not, it's not on your phone, so you don't look at your phone all the time and see how it's counting down, and you're not giving yourself the pressure. It's like, oh my gosh, I have 10 minutes left. But that just goes on the wayside and it works for you. And all you have to do is sit back and read for 15 minutes and reflect. Take Jim Quick's method of reading for, what was it, 20 minutes, and then writing down what stuck with you. This is how you learn the best. That's how we people, human beings, learn the fastest. And so that's how I would start. I would take a look at my schedule and understand what am I in control of, and how can I take more of that control back to me.
I love
Because
that.
then you can also go and say, okay, so I do want to raise my thermostat. Now, how am I going to do this?
Yeah. Yeah. And, something popped up while
Yeah,
you
I
said
saw. What's that?
the last 10 months for me is the first time in my life that I had wide open schedule to figure it out myself, when everything closed for entertainment and I decided to put a full focus on my business. That was daunting. And it still is. I literally just started a brand new schedule today because I'm just still working out what works for me 10 months later. But going back to the schedule thing, when I first started personal development, I had a schedule that I had too, where I had to be certain places. I had to be in rehearsal. I had to be wherever, at performances at a certain time. So I started to take away or just shift. So at the time, audiobooks were a little bit more convenient for me. So while I did my makeup and my hair, I had earbuds in and I listened to an Audible book or I listened to a podcast. So instead of buying the actual book, I was buying the Audible versions or listening to a podcast. In the car, I substituted the radio for a podcast. So I had 20 minutes of something. So that's where I fit it in. I fit it in when amongst the other activities that I was already doing day to day. And instead of turning on music, I shifted that and I put that on. So I didn't allow myself to have the excuse of I don't have any hours of the day. I'm too busy, when I know that I have I had a drive to work and I had a drive to from home. So I had 20 minutes twice a day. And then I had time when I naturally did my hair and my makeup in front of the mirror. I can be listening to something while I'm doing that. So that was almost an hour of my day that were my regular activities that I fit that in. So that,
I love that. And thank you for bringing that up. I totally, yeah, that's exactly where when you look at your schedule and you think you don't have time, yes, you do. You just have to think outside the box.
yeah,
And you don't need, you can double task.
yeah,
For example, when you warm up, this is why this podcast actually was born, so that when you are sitting in your split and perhaps talking about all the things that you don't have while you're warming up, that doesn't really prepare you for what you're stepping into. So that's why you need to prime your mind, get yourself set up. I listen to a podcast every morning when I get up, like just to, okay, don't even think about all the things that you can't. And that's where the choice comes in. We have the choice to decide what we want to listen to.
yes. And we're not going to be surrounded by, most likely, many people that are doing this kind of work on themselves. And so I found more than ever, it was so important once I started to get into this and I started to feel good and I started to, find more joy, that it was precious to me that I took that time every day for me, because I knew I was going into environments that weren't going to be that kind of energy. And so it was really important for me to feed it to myself, to be able to hold on to the energy that wasn't anywhere else that I could see. Otherwise, I mean, it's we're all energy, and our emotions are infectious. And it's really easy to get super inspired by a podcast, but if we don't listen to anything else for another week, our surroundings are going to set us right back to where we were, because that's just the way it is.
Yes. Well, what a beautiful segment too. Just put a bow on this. So when we are starting, or when you are starting your journey into raising your thermostat, you also will learn and feel that all of these money stories that have been given to you during your training or during the time you were raised, allow them to question them. And whatever you believe is what you're going to live in. So you might as well believe that you can earn everything possible and it will actually come to you, as long as you believe it. It's in your hands. So we're gonna sign off for today. There's really just coffee in here, I promise. No beer today. You guys have a great week. At this point, I also would love to mention that Christy's full episode had launched last Friday. I really encourage you to listen to that as something that you do before you perhaps go and take a class, because there's so many nuggets in there that when I listened back to it, I was like, oh my gosh, she definitely speaks to how I felt. Even, before I stopped dancing completely. So it is something that is so beautiful and so raw. So thank you for sharing that. And it would mean the world to us if you would hit subscribe, give us that 5-star review if that aligns with you, and just write a review for us, because that gives us the ability to raise more awareness and be available to more people. Okay. Well, thank you. Have a lovely day, and thanks for listening, guys. Mwah.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If this message resonates with you, please pass it on to someone who needs to hear this right now. And if you like what you've heard, your feedback will go a very long way. If you just take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. Till next time, point at yourself to rise to all that you are capable of.